So, have you ever stopped and wondered why we even have bosses? I mean, why do most of us work in companies instead of just being independent freelancers? Well, it turns out a groundbreaking paper from 1972 by Armen Alchian and Demsetz, one of the most influential ever in the American Economic Review, totally changed how we answer that question. Let's dig into their absolutely brilliant explanation.
Before this paper came out, the standard way to think about a company was, well, that it's basically a mini-dictatorship. Your boss has authority, they tell you what to do, and you do it. This whole setup seemed completely different from the free market, right? Where everything is supposed to be a voluntary deal between equals.
But Alchian and Demsetz kicked off their paper by calling that idea a delusion. I mean, talk about starting with a bang. They made this incredibly radical claim. A firm has no special power. None. The relationship between a boss and an employee, they said, is just another contract, no different from any other deal you'd make in the market.
And the way they proved this is just so clever. Think about it. What power does your boss actually have over you? Really, they can fire you or maybe sue you if you violate your contract. But, and here's the twist, that is the exact same power you have over your local grocer. You can fire them anytime you want, just by shopping somewhere else. And you can sue them if they sell you something that makes you sick.
So this is the crucial insight. When your boss tells you, hey, work on this report instead of making those calls, it is economically the exact same thing as you telling your grocer, I'll take this brand of coffee, not that one. The firm isn't some top-down command structure. It's really just a central hub for a bunch of voluntary agreements, a nexus of contracts.
Okay, but this brings up a huge, obvious puzzle, right? If the firm is just a collection of contracts and the boss has no real authority, then why do we even bother with them? Why isn't everyone just an independent contractor, making deals with each other on the open market for every little task?
And the answer, Alchian and Demsetz argued, has everything to do with the incredible power of teamwork and the fundamental problem that it creates.
They introduced this key concept they called team production. It's pretty intuitive. It's just when people working together can create something way bigger or better than they could if they all worked alone. The classic example is two movers lifting a heavy piano. One person can't do it at all. Two people can. The team's output is greater than the sum of its parts.
But, and this is a huge but, team production creates what they call the metering problem. When those two movers lift the piano, can you say exactly how much lift came from mover A versus mover B? No way! It is basically impossible to perfectly measure or meter each person's specific contribution to that joint effort.
So just think about the incentives this creates for a second. If you're on a team and you know your individual effort just gets blended into one big pot and nobody can really measure it, what's the temptation going to be?
You guessed it, shirking. If I decide to slack off a little bit, the team's total output goes down, sure, but I only feel a small fraction of that loss since it's shared by everyone. But the benefit of my little break? Oh, I get to enjoy 100% of that all by myself. This creates a really powerful reason for everyone on the team to work just a little less hard.
Now, this whole problem of shirking is so important that the way we solve it is what gives us the entire structure of the modern company.
So step one of the solution is you bring in a specialist. The team agrees to hire somebody whose only job is to watch everyone, to measure performance as best they can, and basically to stop people from shirking. You need a monitor, or what we would just call a manager or a boss.
But this immediately leads to that timeless ancient question, right? If the monitor is just another hired hand, what stops them from shirking on the job? Who's going to watch the watcher?
And here is the genius of the solution. You make the monitor the residual claimant. This means that instead of getting a fixed salary, the monitor's job is to pay everyone else on the team their contractual wages, and then they get to keep whatever is left over, the residual, the profit. Suddenly, the monitor has a massive personal incentive to reduce shirking because every single dollar of productivity they squeeze out goes directly into their own pocket.
So this one simple idea, making the monitor the residual claimant, is what creates the owner or the employer. It bundles together all these rights that define what a boss is. They hold the profit or loss, they're the central point for all the contracts, they direct the team, they hire and fire, and they can sell all these rights to someone else. It's not about power or authority, it's simply the most efficient way we found to solve the information problem of teamwork.
And what's so cool about this theory is it doesn't just explain one kind of business. It gives us a powerful toolkit for understanding all sorts of different organizations we see around us every single day.
I mean, just look at how this logic plays out everywhere. Why do law firms have partnerships? Well, it's really hard to meter creative work, so you solve the problem by having the monitors, the partners, share in the profits and monitor each other. Large corporations? The owners are all the shareholders, so you need things like a board of directors and stock prices to keep the hired managers from shirking. In nonprofits, since there's no residual claimant, the theory predicts you'd actually expect to see more shirking. It even explains unions, as the workers getting together to hire their own monitor to make sure the boss keeps their end of the bargain.
But Alchian and Demsetz weren't quite done. They left us with one last truly mind-bending idea about what a firm really is.
See, by watching and directing a team day in and day out, the employer becomes a specialist in one crucial thing: information. They learn who's good at what, who works well with whom, and how to combine everyone's talents in the most productive way. A firm, then, becomes this incredibly efficient little machine for discovering and organizing human potential.
And this leads to their amazing final conclusion. The firm isn't the opposite of the market. The firm is a market. It's a privately owned, specialized market for talent that directly competes with the public open market. And it only survives because for some kinds of work, it's just a flat-out better, more efficient way to organize people. It's a truly revolutionary way to look at the economic world all around us.